From the Mission Director Center at the Cape Canaveral Air Force Station, this is Atlas Launch Control at T-minus 52 minutes and counting. We've had a slight change in our timeline this morning. The launch remains on schedule at 8:38 a.m. However, the timeline has been adjusted somewhat. There was a scheduled hold at T-minus 1 hour and 5 minutes for 30 minutes. The launch team has elected that we will have skipped that hold and will insert the extra 30 minutes at the T-minus 5-minute mark, making our hold at T-minus 5 minutes now a 45-minute built-in hold. Operations here at the Cape Canaveral Air Force Station continue to go well this morning for the launch of the Tracking and Data Relay Satellite, or TDRS, aboard an Atlas 2A launch vehicle. Again, liftoff is scheduled to occur on time at 8:38 a.m. today from Complex 36A, and the launch window extends for 40 minutes. The purpose of this mission is to place into orbit the first of 3 advanced communications satellites while replenishing the existing on-orbit fleet of TDRS satellites that have served the space agency and the space community since 1983. The newest generation of tracking and data relay satellites will provide vital communications links with the Space Shuttle, the International Space Station, and other spacecraft and launch vehicles. Upon launch, TDRS will be inserted into a geosynchronous orbit about 22,000 miles above the Earth. TDRS H will provide nearly continuous communications links with controllers and researchers on the ground. There is one minor issue that is being addressed at this time. It has to do with nitrogen purge on the Atlas vehicle. Engineers are being dispatched at this time to the pad
Atlas LO2
check
at 10%.
the valves at the pad to ensure that there's no issue with those valves at the pad. We are using nitrogen from bottles on the pad, and we are checking with the source, the provider of the nitrogen, to make sure that there's no concerns there as well. The vehicle is in good shape. It's ready for launch. There is just this one minor concern with the nitrogen purge that we are having to address today. Other than that, everything does continue to go on schedule this morning for launch. The fueling of the Centaur stage with liquid oxygen has begun and is nearly complete. And the Atlas stage liquid oxygen fueling is set to pick up in about 10 minutes.
T-minus 50 minutes.
Payload managers are monitoring the TDRS spacecraft, which is sitting atop the Atlas rocket, and no issues are being reported with the spacecraft. Again, all is continuing to go well for our launch of the Atlas II and the TDRS spacecraft, currently set for liftoff at 8:38 a.m. Eastern Time today. At T-minus 49 minutes and counting, this is Atlas Launch Control.
Atlas LO2 at 20%. Roger. Atlas LO2 at 30%. Roger. T-minus 45 minutes. Atlas LO2 at 40%. Roger. Atlas LO2 at 50%. Roger. Atlas LO2 at 60%.
Roger.
Centaur LO2 at flight level.
Roger.
LCOSM on 1.
Go ahead.
The team that's supposed to check the air liquid, your gas shack there at Westgate is ready to roll in.
Proceed.
Copy.
Atlas LO2 at 70%.
Roger.
ALC.
Go ahead, ALC.
Roger. Recommendation of the NAMI team, in addition to delaying the start of LH2 tanking following chill down, it's also recommended that we delay the FTS self-test, which is planned at T-minus 32 minutes until after the GN2 Air Liquide people have left the area.
Roger.
Atlas LO2 at 80%.
Roger. LH2 chill down is complete. Roger. Maintain the chill down. Roger. OSM, LC.
This is OSM, go ahead.
You keep me informed as to your status on the Air Liquide problem?
I will do, sir. We've already given them the report to proceed to the pad, so they should be arriving momentarily.
Roger.
Yeah, LC, this is OSM. The team has arrived at the west side of the B pad gas shed.
Roger.
T-minus 33 minutes. T-minus 32 minutes.
Atlas LO2 at 90%. Roger.
This is Atlas Launch Control at T-minus 31 minutes and counting. Operations are continuing at Complex 36A for the launch of the Tracking and Data Relay Satellite, or TDRS, aboard the Atlas II launch vehicle this morning. Liftoff remains scheduled to occur on time at 8:38 a.m. We have adjusted our count a little bit this morning so that the earlier built-in hold of 30 minutes at T-minus 105 minutes is now going to be inserted. That 30 minutes will be inserted at the T-minus 5-minute hold, combining it with the normal 15-minute hold at that point, making a hold at T-minus 5 minutes, now 45 minutes long. Some activities are going on that had not been scheduled at the pad. A nitrogen purge is being looked at on the Atlas vehicle. We have some engineers at the pad at this time looking at the regulator station to make attempts to rectify a problem that may be with a check valve at the pad, and we're also looking at the source provider. Due to this unexpected work, we have delayed the liquid hydrogen tanking operations. We do expect that we'll be able to pick that up in a nominal fashion as soon as the engineers are off the pad.
Is go.
And that should keep us on schedule for launch at 8:38 this morning. Also, we're looking at several boats that are in the impact zone out in the ocean. Coast Guard operations are in work to make sure that those boats are going to be cleared out in time, and they are at this time posing no threat to the launch of the Atlas at the opening of the window. But we will be keeping a close eye on those vessels as they move out of that area. Again, liftoff is scheduled to occur on time at 8:38 a.m. at the beginning and the opening of a 40-minute window. The purpose of this mission is to place into orbit the first of 3 advanced communication satellites while replenishing the existing on-orbit fleet of TDRS satellites that have served the space community for about 17 or 18 years. This newest generation of tracking and data relay satellites will provide vital communication links with the space shuttle, the International Space Station, and other spacecraft and launch vehicles. TDRS will be inserted into a geosynchronous orbit about 22,000 miles above the Earth and will provide nearly continuous communications links with controllers and researchers here on the ground. At T-minus 27 minutes, 40 seconds, and counting, this is Atlas Launch Control.
Atlas LO2 being maintained at 98% wet. Roger. Start Atlas LO2 topping to flight level. Roger. OSM, LC.
LC, OSM on 1.
What's your status on the Air Liquide people?
They tell me they're tweaking the regulator, and but they don't have a timeline. They don't know when they'll be finished.
Okay. Centaur pneumatic bottles are at flight mass. Roger.
AECOM, this is Carn.
T-minus 24 minutes.
High pressure gas, LC.
T-minus 22 minutes. Minus 21 minutes.
This is Atlas Launch Control at T-minus 19 minutes, 40 seconds, and counting. The Atlas 2A rocket carrying the TDRS spacecraft is poised and ready to fly from Launch Complex 36A at the Cape Canaveral Air Force Station. Launch is targeted for 8:38 a.m. Eastern Time at the opening of a 40-minute window. The countdown is progressing smoothly at this time. However, we have adjusted the timeline a little bit. A 30-minute built-in hold that had been scheduled to occur at T-minus 105 minutes was basically moved to the T-minus 5-minute mark, making the hold at T-minus 5 minutes now coming up in about 13 minutes. Extend 45 minutes. So the T-minus 5-minute hold will be a 45-minute built-in hold. Some out of normal activities that have been occurring at the pad include a nitrogen purge check.
Breakaway valve has been on scale for 6 minutes. Roger.
We have sent some engineers out to the pad to check the regulator valve at the regulator station, and their initial checks are indicating that they are seeing an increase in the purge, and that's a good sign. Given the fact that this should be cleared up, then we...
Roger.
And the word is just now coming through that the engineers, technicians are clearing the pad, and once they have cleared the pad, then we'll begin operations to
Air Liquide people reach the roadblock. They're approximately
load the
half-mile
liquid
away from
hydrogen
now.
into the vehicle.
The team recommends we proceed with the FTS self-test and LH2 tanking and the rest of the count.
Roger. OSM, LC.
This is OSM. Go ahead, LC.
We don't want to have it cleared to start LH2 tanking.
And again, we expect hydrogen tanking to pick up in the next few minutes.
Clear to go with LH2 tanking.
Roger.
Other than that, the countdown continues to progress smoothly.
Start LH2 tanking. Starting tanking.
Hey, this is Daryl.
Atlas LO2 at flight
The
level.
purpose of this mission is to place in orbit the first of 3 advanced communication satellites, replenishing the existing on-orbit fleet of our TDRS satellites. This is the newest generation of tracking and data relay satellites that will provide vital communications links with the Space Shuttle, the International Space Station, and other spacecraft such as the Hubble Space Telescope. The TDRS spacecraft is 68 feet long with solar arrays deployed and 43 feet wide with its antenna unfurled. At liftoff, it weighs about 7,000 pounds. The mission life expectancy is 11 years for TDRS and carries enough onboard expendables for an additional 4 years of service. Again, with some slight adjustments to our countdown this morning, and with a slight delay in the beginning of our hydrogen tanking, everything is continuing relatively smoothly, and we are on schedule for launch at the opening of our 40-minute window at 8:38 a.m. Eastern Time. At T-minus 15 minutes and counting, this is Atlas Launch Control.
Pogo suppressor ready for flight. Roger. LC, this is Redline Monitor. Go ahead. We have got the full FTS receiver strength red lines for both Atlas and Centaur. This was expected due to the out-of-sequence running of the signal strength test. And we were set after the test. That's as expected? That's as expected, sir, yes. A reset following completion of the self-test. Roger, sir.
Centaur LH2 at 5%.
Roger. Page 48 is complete.
LH2 at 10%.
Roger.
LH2 at 20%.
Roger.
T-minus 11 minutes.
This is Atlas Launch Control at T-minus 11 minutes and counting. And we have a shot on of one of our last weather balloons that has just been released about 3 minutes ago.
Centaur LO2 temperature is above minus 293 degrees Fahrenheit.
This is a gem sphere balloon that we typically send off about 1 hour prior to launch to gauge the upper level winds. At this point, weather on the Space Coast is looking generally acceptable.
LH2 at 30%.
We are tracking a line of thunderstorms that are coming from the northwest that are moving to the east,
Minus 10 minutes.
southeast. We anticipate, however, at this point that unless there are storms building over the Cape, which at this point they are not, that we should be good for our launch at the opening of our window at 8:38 a.m. Eastern Time. We're at T-minus 9 minutes and counting.
T-minus 9 minutes.
And again, we will transition into a built-in hold at T-minus 5 minutes, and this hold will extend for 45 minutes.
Pilot 2 at 40%. Roger.
Meanwhile, tanking of the liquid hydrogen is underway. We're at about a 40% level at this point. And everything is on schedule to support our launch on time. With no other serious issues being addressed at this time. And about 3 minutes to go before we hit our scheduled built-in hold. Everything continues with no serious issues at all. At T-minus 8 minutes and counting, this is Atlas Launch Control.
Switch secondary PCM decom and Adams to RF link. Secondary decom and Adams on RF link. LH2 at 50%. Roger.
Minus 6 minutes, 30 seconds. T-minus 6 minutes.
LC, FTS, self-test is complete. Roger. LH2, 60%. Roger.
LC, this is CCLS monitor. Go ahead. FTS red lines have been reset.
Roger.
Minus 5 minutes, 30 seconds.
Atlas LO2 at flight level. Roger. Center LO2 at flight level. Roger. LH2 not at flight level. Roger. Minus 5 minutes and holding for 45 minutes.
This is Atlas Launch Control, and we are at T-minus 5 minutes and holding, and again this is a 45-minute built-in hold. The Atlas II rocket carrying the TDRS spacecraft is poised and ready to fly from Launch Complex 36A this morning at the Cape Canaveral Air Force Station. Launch remains scheduled for 8:38 a.m. at the opening of a 40-minute built-in hold, or a 40-minute window. At this time, we will play a short tape that demonstrates the activities involved in the
70%.
buildup of the Atlas rocket. The Atlas arrived aboard a transport at the Cape Canaveral Air Force Station and was lifted aboard a land transporter, where it was then carried to its processing facility for preparations for taking to the pad. And the Centaur stage also arrived. Transported to Hangar J at the Cape Canaveral Air Force Station, where the Centaur stage and its two main engines were given a final check and servicing. And then out to pad 36A, erecting first the Atlas stage. The Atlas stage of the rocket burns a combination of liquid oxygen and RP1, which is a highly refined kerosene.
At 80%.
It's 82 feet long and 10 feet in diameter. And it has 3 engines made by Rocketdyne. The Centaur stage itself is about 33 feet long and 10 feet in diameter. And the Centaur stage sports 2 RL-10 engines that are made by Pratt & Whitney. And stacking operations went smoothly without any serious problems. And we're back now live with a shot of the Atlas Centaur, or the Atlas AC-139 at Complex 36A. Servicing of liquid oxygen into the Centaur and Atlas stages are complete. And we're still in the process of flowing liquid hydrogen, and that is scheduled to be complete in the next few minutes.
90%. Roger.
LH2 just reported to be at 90%, so we're virtually complete with that operation. Again, all is continuing on schedule. The weather reports that have just come in are indicating that we're looking very good for the entire 40-minute window. The frontal line of showers that had been progressing southward has pretty much stalled out well to the north of us and to the west of us, and is not expected to present us this morning. With about 30 minutes, or excuse me, with about 40 minutes remaining in our scheduled built-in hold, we are at T-minus 5 minutes and holding. This is Atlas Launch Control.
Centaur LH2 at 97%. Roger. Start LH2 solenoid vent valve checkout. Roger.
This is Atlas Launch Control at T-minus 5 minutes and holding. We have with us today Tony Camberiotti, who is going to be talking to a TDRS flow tape that we have produced and made of the TDRS activities that have occurred here at the Cape. Tony is the TDRS project manager from the Goddard Space Flight Center in Greenbelt, Maryland. Welcome, Tony.
Thank you.
And we'll flow that tape now, and Tony will be able to talk to us and talk us through the activities of the TDRS.
Well, you see the spacecraft arriving at the Kennedy Space Center on May 26th, coming out of the C-5A aircraft in this container, putting on a transport vehicle to be taken over to the Safe 2 facility for about 4 weeks of processing. It's a pretty large container, as you can see, and they're being transported now. The processing at the Cape takes about 4 weeks, and it includes 4 basic stages. First, electrical checkouts, then propellant loading, and then mechanical closeout, encapsulation, and then moving to the pad and mating with the launch vehicle. Here you can see the unpacking at the Safe 2 facility, putting on the fueling stand. There you see the fairing with our logo on it, and the TDRS spacecraft in the background. First, this shows that you can see how the antennas are furled for the fitting into the fairing. Here's the electrical checks being done during the first week of processing. And the second week, like I said, is propellant loading, where first pressure checks are done, and the loading of the fuel, or oxidizer. And then you can see mechanical checks being done prior to the encapsulation. Here you see the spacecraft ready for the shroud to be, see the shroud coming in. The final mechanical checks. You can see the large spacecraft that will go up into the fairing considerably more than the typical spacecraft. You can see the mating to the payload adapter. Just prior, there you can see the shrouds in the background. Okay. There we go. You can see that the 15-foot antennas are furled for this operation. There was a measurement check done prior to this to make sure there's enough clearance for the ride. There you see the encapsulation taking place. And there's enough clearance for the antennas during the ride so that any vibration still has leaves room so that it doesn't touch the fairing. There's our NASA TDRS H logo. It's on both sides of the fairing. You should see that pretty clearly. And it's transported out to the pad for mating with the launch vehicle. And you see it hoisted up, and up to the 160-foot level, be put on top of the launch vehicle, and long ways up. So the whole flow at the Cape went very well. I think from the spacecraft point of view, it really no glitches, and very smooth as it gets. Here you can see the final mating out on the pad with the launch vehicle, and the spacecraft's all ready to go.
And it was a smooth operation, no concerns with the mating whatsoever?
None whatsoever.
And everything up until this point, and including this point, everything's operating on the TDRS without any concerns at all, and we're right on schedule.
Right on schedule.
Okay, Tony, thank you very much,
Sure.
and we hope to have you back after launch, and got a few questions we'd like to ask you at that time.
Okay,
So,
sure.
Thank you.
You bet.
Page 51 is complete. Page 52 is complete. cycle center vent valves.
Roger. Final center vent valves cycling complete.
Roger. Page 53 is complete. Cycle center LH2 fill and drain valve. Roger. Valve cycle. Atlas LO2, can you verify you're at flight level? LH2 at flight level. Roger.
Yes, Atlas LO2 is very close to flight level. I'm toggling back and forth from flight level.
Center LO2, verify at flight level.
Roger, I'll see we're at flight level.
Roger. Page 54 is complete. See my thumb?
This is Atlas Launch Control at T-minus 5 minutes and holding. And we're about 22 and a half minutes away from our launch this morning. Everything continues on schedule and on time. No technical issues are being addressed at this time. And we've also received word that our range has been virtually cleared of all vessels, and that should not be a problem for a launch this morning.
All communications switch to channel 1. All personnel and visitors remain.
At this time, we are going to be playing a tape that was taken earlier this morning of the gantry rollback at Complex 36. Spotlights on the Atlas Centaur at Complex 36A. The Atlas rocket, of course, was mated and with the Centaur stage and with the TDRS, which is in the 14-foot diameter fairing on top earlier in the month. And those operations went without problem. Final checks this morning indicated that the vehicle is continuing in good shape, and based on that, the tower was then rolled back away from the vehicle. No problems were identified associated with the tower rollback. Tower is basically on a railroad track type device and is slowly moved away from the Atlas vehicle. The NASA TDRS logo on the vehicle demonstrates that this is a tracking and data relay satellite that is being launched this morning.
Spacecraft to internal power. Roger.
Again, launch is on schedule to occur at 8:38 a.m. Eastern Time this morning. And now we have shots from inside the blockhouse at Complex 36. Again, these shots were taken before the blockhouse was sealed earlier this morning. And everything, again, continues on schedule. We are at T-minus 5 minutes and holding. Back with the live shot now of the Atlas at Complex 36A. Just under 19 minutes remaining in our count sequence this morning. All the telemetry and data that's coming into Hangar AE here on the Cape Canaveral Air Force Station, where launch controllers are stationed, are reported to be good, and we're not getting any indications of any problems that need to be addressed on the Atlas vehicle or on the TDRS spacecraft. Weather continues to be green. The frontal system that was tracking through the northern peninsula of Florida earlier this morning has pretty much stalled to the north of us, and weather forecasters are indicating that at least for the first part of the window we are good to go with no weather concerns, and perhaps through the entire 40-minute window we should have no weather concerns. And we just heard from our launch director that in about 5 minutes we'll be preparing for our final readiness poll. Launch Manager Chuck Duvall is preparing to poll his team and giving them a heads up that this will be coming in about 5 minutes. At this point, we are at T-minus 5 minutes and holding. No issues being addressed that would prohibit an on-time launch of the TDRS satellite aboard an Atlas rocket. The launch is coming up in about 17 minutes, or at 8:38 a.m. Eastern Time. At T-minus 5 minutes and holding, this is Atlas Launch Control.
NASA MIM ready.
SMD. SMD, spacecraft is go pending completion of transfer to internal power. Will advise when complete.
Copy. Shia.
Shia's go.
NAM.
NAM is ready.
Thank you.
This is Atlas Launch Control at T-minus 5 minutes and holding, and the launch manager has just completed his poll, and everybody is ready and prepared to launch today. The exception we heard was the exception for transferring the spacecraft to internal power, and that we have not hit that point in the timeline yet, but that is scheduled to occur in the next few minutes. And of course, given that, everybody else has given their go to proceed with our launch. Launch today of the Tracking and Data Relay Satellite, or TDRS, aboard an Atlas vehicle is scheduled to occur at 8:38 a.m. Eastern Time. With no problems being worked at this time for launch of Atlas and TDRS in about 10 minutes. We're at T-minus 5 minutes and holding. This is Atlas Launch Control.
LC range coordinator on 1. Go ahead. Roger, LC. We have a range final clear to launch. Roger, thank you.
And again, confirmation from the range has just come in that they are green and good to go, that the range support operations are up and supporting launch today, and that there are no vehicles in the ocean and the flight path that would present a cause for us to hold our launch activities. So with that, there are no issues being worked. Weather has again reported that we are good for the window, and we're standing by to pick up our count in about 3 minutes and 35 seconds at T-minus 5 minutes and holding. This is Atlas Launch Control.
Report to resume countdown. Atlas Systems propulsion, go. Hydraulics, go. Pneumatics, go. LO2, go. Vehicle electrical, go. Flight termination system, go. Propellant utilization, go. Centaur Systems propulsion, go. Hydraulics, go. Pneumatics, go. LO2, go. LH2, go. Vehicle electrical, go. Flight control, go. CCLS monitor, go. Flight termination system, go. Telemetry, go. RF, go. Complex systems. Instrumentation, go. Launch control, go. Environmental control, go. Booms, go. Launcher, go. Water, go. Complex electrical, go. Sequencer, go. Ground wind monitor vehicle loads, go. TV control, go. Operations safety manager, go. Range, weather, and final clear to launch. LC, we are no-go at this time. Boats moved into the clearance area trying to get a new T0 time. Roger.
LC, Range Coordinator 1.
Go ahead.
Roger, LC. Looks like we will not be able to pick up the count here in 1.5 minutes. I guess I'd recommend at this time bringing the spacecraft off of internal, and as we go into hold and try to determine new T0.
Roger. Launch Director, LC.
Go ahead.
Range is no go. I recommend we hold the count for an additional 10 minutes.
I concur.
Spacecraft did not go internal.
And you did not complete your poll, is that correct?
Roger. Sequencer, LC. Sequencer. Extend the hold an additional 10 minutes. Roger.
This is Atlas Launch Control, and as soon as we had word that the range was clear, they came back and saw a vessel in the safety area and have gone back to a no-go status. And the belief right now is that we will indeed be extending this hold for some period of time, perhaps as many as 10 minutes. So whereas we would normally be coming out of the count at this point, we are remaining at T-minus 5 minutes and holding. And we will remain at this point until we can receive confirmation that the vessel has moved or will be moving shortly.
Copies. LCC. Go ahead. Spacecraft is back on external power. Roger.
And the range is continuing to work the situation with the vessel in the impact area. And the spacecraft has reported that they did transition to internal power for a brief period of time, about 4 minutes. They are back on external power at this time, and that should not be an issue for us. The spacecraft has 37 minutes of internal power time, and they have used about 4 minutes of that. However, again, with only a window that extends for 40 minutes, that will not be an issue for us today. So we're basically in an indefinite extended hold at this point. waiting for word from the range safety officer that the impact area has been cleared of all vessels. At T-minus 5 minutes and holding, this is Atlas Launch Control. Late word from the range safety officer is that the estimated clear of this vessel will be in about 10 minutes, and we will stand by for confirmation that the vessel has been cleared. Meanwhile, we are at T-minus 5 minutes and holding. The vehicle is in good shape and the spacecraft is in good shape, standing by for range operations to give their go.
Range coordinator, LC.
Go ahead, LC.
Have an estimate on whether we should extend the hold or not?
Roger, really, I guess the best thing to do at this point would be go to indefinite hold. The surveillance officer is hoping to give an update at 12:47 Zulu as to whether we're clear or not at that time. So the earliest T0 I guess we could shoot for would be 12:57. Which falls in an open COLA period, so we're okay as far as mission assurance COLAs.
Roger. Launch Director, LC.
This is the launch director.
I recommend we add another 10 minutes to the hold.
Why don't you make it 9 and we target a 12:56 rather than 12:57? That would, assuming that we clear by 12:47, that gives us 9 minutes, 1 minute to get ready for the pull and pick up, do the pull at L-8. Spacecraft goes internal then, and then pick up the count.
9 minutes gives us a T0 of 12:57.
12:56.
Could you recalculate that, please?
If we get a clear at 12:47, if we add 9 minutes, we our target a T0 of 12:56. We will pick up the count at L-8, and that gives the spacecraft time to go internal.
So we want to add an additional 8 minutes to the hold?
9 minutes to the hold. I copy. So you're saying Okay, so we're targeting 12:48, so we should add 8 minutes, so we target a 12:56. T0.
Roger. We'll add 8 minutes to the hold.
Copy that.
Roger. Sequencer, LC. Sequencer. Add an additional 8 minutes to the hold. Roger.
This is Atlas Launch Control at T-minus 5 minutes and holding, and with some discussion on the extension of this hold, we have settled that at this point, pending verification that the range is clear to go, which we should be getting confirmation in the next 5 minutes or so, that our earliest target T0 time would be at 8:56 a.m. Eastern Time. That would mean that we would pick up the count at 8:51.
Go ahead.
You concur we have a new T0 of 12:56 Zulu?
That's correct.
Roger.
And it appears that the range safety officer has, at least preliminarily, given his go that everything is cleared. The vessel has moved out of the impact area, standing by for confirmation of that.
LC range coordinator on 1.
Go ahead.
Roger, we have a go from the range. Area is clear. Targeting T0 of 12:56 Zulu.
Roger.
And we do have confirmation that the range is green, and we are targeting launch for 8:56 a.m. Eastern Time. We will be picking up the count at 8:51, coming up in about 6 minutes.
be a ready report to resume the count in 1 minute.
With count and final readiness for launch. NCE. NCE ready. SFA. SFA ready. MIM.
NASA MIM ready.
SMD.
SMD is go.
SHIA.
SHIA's go.
NAM.
NAM is ready.
Thank you.
Ready report to resume the countdown. Atlas Systems, propulsion. Go. Hydraulics. Go. Pneumatics.
Go.
LO2. Go. Vehicle electrical. Go. Flight termination system. Go. Propellant utilization.
Go.
Centaur systems, propulsion.
Go.
Hydraulics.
Go.
Pneumatics.
Go.
LO2. Go. LH2. Go. Vehicle electrical. Go. Flight control. Go. CCLS monitor. Go. Flight termination system. Go. Telemetry.
Go.
RF.
Go.
Complex systems instrumentation. Go. Launch control. Go. Environmental control.
Go.
Booms.
Go.
Launcher.
Go.
Water.
Go.
Complex electrical.
Go.
Sequencer. Go. Downwind monitor vehicle loads.
Go.
TV control.
Go.
Operation safety manager.
Go.
Range, weather, and final clear to launch.
Go.
Launch director.
Go.
And with that, we're about 2 minutes away from picking up the count. Launch will occur at the new T0 at 8:56 a.m. Eastern Time. The spacecraft has just transitioned to internal power, and they are reporting that they are good to go as well.
Spacecraft on internal power. Spacecraft on internal power. Roger.
T-minus 5 minutes and counting. Mark.
And we are at T-minus 5 minutes.
Gas generator,
and counting.
John.
Per John.
Equipment module vent door squib to arm.
Squib armed.
Tank isolation power valve switch to arm.
Valves armed.
Prepare water systems.
Roger.
Standing by for Atlas to be transitioned to internal power.
T-minus 4 minutes, 30 seconds.
Prepare Centaur pneumatics.
Roger.
FTS to internal.
FTS on internal.
T-minus 4 minutes and
T-minus
counting.
4 minutes.
Atlas vehicle power to internal.
Atlas on internal.
Boom pyro power switch to arm.
Switch armed.
Launcher pyro vent PYC power on.
Power on.
Launcher pyro vent fire commands to enable.
Fire commands enabled.
All operations are reported to be in good health at this time, coming up on T-minus 3 minutes and counting.
T-minus 3 minutes.
Water system ready. Roger. Centaur pneumatics ready. Roger.
Managers are closely monitoring their consoles, and nothing appears to be unexpected or out of the ordinary. Weather reports are green, and we are good to go for launch.
T-minus 2 minutes, 35 seconds.
Securing Atlas LO2 topping.
Roger. Arm switch to arm.
Engine prep complete.
The Centaur stage will be
Minus 2
going
minutes, 15 seconds.
internal
Start flight
momentarily.
pressurization.
Roger, going to flight pressures.
T-minus 2 minutes.
Centaur to internal power.
And Centaur is going to internal power at this time.
Centaur on internal.
Flight termination system to arm. Atlas to arm. Centaur to arm. FTS armed.
Minus 1 minute, 40 seconds.
T-minus 90 seconds.
T-minus 1 minute, 30 seconds.
Securing LH2 tanking. Roger. Ignition enabled. Switch closed.
Switch closed.
Minus 1 minute, 15 seconds.
Securing Centaur LO2 topping. Roger.
Stable at flight pressures.
Roger. MIB to auto arm. Auto arm.
T-minus 1 minute and counting.
Engines ready.
Everything continues to look good. T-minus 45 seconds.
Minus
and
45
counting.
seconds.
Status check propellants. Good, Atlas. Go Centaur. Go Centaur. Pneumatics.
Go Atlas. Go Centaur.
Launch sequence start on my mark. Mark.
And we have launch
Minus
sequence
30.
start.
MIB armed. Vent valves closed.
T-minus 25 seconds.
T-minus 25.
T-minus 15 seconds. T-minus 7 seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1. We have ignition and liftoff of NASA's tracking and data relay satellite, assuring a new generation of space communications. Pitch and roll programs are being activated. Everything continues to look good as the Atlas vehicle climbs away from the Earth with the TDRS payload on board.
And we have Atlas. And the engines continue to burn normally. Everything looks... Atlas PU is controlling normally. Engines continue to operate at normal levels. Everything looks good. And we're seeing normal dynamic responses for this time in flight. Both engines are up and running normally. Acceleration profile as expected. We are now 2 nautical miles in altitude and 0.3 of a nautical mile downrange. Booster sustainer parameters still look good. And we're seeing normal response on the Atlas PU system. Coming up on 80 seconds into the flight, vehicle is now 5 nautical miles in altitude, 2 nautical miles downrange at 900 miles per hour. Both engines continue to operate normally. Everything looks good.
From the telemetry lab, commentary is provided by Rob Gannon.
And Atlas PU looks like it's controlling on the fuel-rich side. Not unexpected performance. Booster sustainer engines continue to operate normally.
Everything continues to look good. Coming up on booster engine
Next
cutoff.
increment we're looking for in the next 30 seconds is firing the pyro valves to pressurize the reaction control and outcome systems. Both engines continue to operate normally.
Booster engine cutoff should occur at...
And flight control is cleaning up, coming out of max Q. 20 seconds to firing the pyro valves. Engines continue to look perfectly normal.
Engine cutoff should occur in about 30 seconds.
And we fired the pyro valve, pressurizing both the reaction control and outcome systems. Pressurization signatures look good. Booster sustainer engines continue to burn normally. Coming up on booster engine cutoff. We have thermal conditioning firings on the Arkham, right on time. And Atlas PU has now gone to open loop control in preparation for BECO. We have booster engine cutoff, normal shutdown signature, and booster section separation. Sustainer continues to burn normally. Everything looks good. We have Atlas PU back to closed loop control, right on time, continuing to correct out some fuel. And everything continues to look normal. And flight control is settling out after booster package separation. Next marker we're looking for is fairing separation. Up in 20 seconds. Sustainer continues to burn normally. And flight control is now down the middle. All disturbances from package jet have settled out.
And these are
Coming up
real-time.
on fairing jettison.
These are real-time graphics coming to us.
And the vehicle continues right down the range track.
That will parrot the real-time
We have
activities.
fairing jettison. Both brake wires indicate a satisfactory fairing jettison. Sustainer burning normally. We've re-enabled steering following fairing separation. Vehicle is now 65 nautical miles in altitude, 147 nautical miles downrange at 7,000 miles per hour. In 35 seconds, the sustainer engine cut off. And continuing to make a fuel correction on the Atlas PU system. All sustainer operating parameters continue to look right as expected, right down the middle. And sustainer flight control continues to look good. Coming up on 10 seconds to SECO. And we have sustainer engine cutoff, nice normal roll off. And we have stage separation. We have pre-start on fuel and pre-start on locks. Housing temps are responding as expected. And nozzle deployment right on time. We have the
And again, real-time graphics.
We have ignition and full thrust. Both Centaur engines are up and running normally. Start signature looks good. And Centaur hydraulic pressures are up to their steady state operating levels. Everything looks normal there. Centaur engine parameters continue to look just fine. We have Centaur PU to fixed angles right on time. And Centaur flight control looks good. We have begun our roll to TDRS attitude. Roll rates are as expected. Start transients on the vehicle rates look good. Centaur engines continue to operate normally. Vehicle is now 97 nautical miles in altitude, 351 nautical miles downrange at 8,800 miles per hour. And reviewing vehicle track as displayed by the range, everything looks good. And sustainer continues to operate just fine. And we're in the process of a thermal conditioning firing on the reaction control system. This firing is designed to purge GN2 from the thruster loop in preparation for system operation, ladder, and the engine continues to look just fine. Moving through nominal mixture ratio. Signature looks normal on center PU system. Engine operating parameters are responding to the changes in mixture ratio driven by the PU valve as expected. And we've started another thermal loop conditioning firing. And temperatures are responding as expected to the flow of hydrazine through the thruster loop. Vehicle's now 105 nautical miles in altitude, 533 nautical miles downrange at 10,700 miles per hour. And center PU is now controlling towards the LOX-rich mixture ratio. Signatures look good, engine responding as expected. And we've switched over to Antigua telemetry. Data quality looks good. And I have another thermal conditioning firing. Housing temps responding as expected. And center PU is now moving towards a more nominal mixture ratio. Signatures look good. And another thermal conditioning firing. Everything looks good. Looks like we're approximately 3 to 4 seconds off our nominal track. It's not unexpected. Saw a short telemetry data loss, but we've recovered and everything looks good. PU is right down the middle now. Everything looks normal there. And hydraulic pressures look good. Vehicle's now 103 nautical miles in altitude, 800 nautical miles downrange at 13,700 miles per hour. And we're in the process of another thermal conditioning firing right on time. All systems appear to be operating perfectly as expected. Vehicle's continuing right down the center of the range track. And we're 30 seconds to MECO 1. Center flight control is very smooth and right down the middle. Center engine operating parameters are right as expected. Another thermal conditioning firing is occurring. And we are now doing thruster conditioning firings on the P's and Y's. Coming up on MECO, approximately 10 seconds. We have MECO 1, normal shutdown signature. Pump is spinning down as expected. We have 4S engines on. And both center hydraulic power packs have rolled off as expected. And we've safed the FTS system right on time. Everything looks good. And vehicle rates continue to be as expected. Everything looks good. And a quick look at our parking orbit. We had a predicted apogee height of 312 nautical miles. We achieved 311.8. Energy height 90.3, and we achieved 90.2, and our inclination is right on down to the fourth decimal point. Everything looks good for the park orbit. And taking a quick look at mark events throughout the flight, everything is coming in right as expected. We're looking to be 3 to 4 seconds late on our mark. That's not unexpected at all. And we switched over to 2S thrusters right on time. And we are now in a 15-minute coast phase. We continue to get good telemetry data from Antigua. And battery voltages look good in coast. And we switched over to TDRS telemetry data. Data quality looks good.
This is Atlas Launch Control, and everything continues to go well with a successful liftoff of our Atlas vehicle and the TDRS spacecraft. At this time, we are going to replay the launch from various cameras around the Cape. And while we replay these cameras, we will continue to hear from Rich Gannon in the telemetry lab as he makes real-time callouts.
On our 2S settling thrusters, and we are showing our expected thermal control roll at 1.5 degrees a second. Everything looks good there. Next event we're looking for is switching over to a 25% duty cycle on our 2S thrusters. That'll be happening next 10 seconds. And we switched over to a 20% duty cycle. And in approximately 2 minutes, we expect to bring up our center hydraulic system recirculation pumps for system thermal control during the park orbit coast. On telemetry is cleaning up, and we're still seeing good data. And we're now about 50 seconds away from seeing circ pumps come up. And tank pressures continue to look good. Storage bottle pressures look good. RCS activity is as expected. rates are right as we expect to see. Pitch and yaw rates are nulled out, and we're seeing our slow thermal control roll. Battery voltage and bus voltages look good. And circ pumps have come on right on time. We see both circ pumps up. Normal operation. We're continuing to see sequence out of the vehicle thus far. And we should see another 100 seconds of circ pump operation. And we're about 30 seconds away from bringing down circ pumps. And a quick look at propellant tank pressures indicate normal levels and signatures. Everything's stable there, as is our helium storage bottle pressure. And circ pumps have come off. And in about 20 seconds we should switch our settling thrusters onto a 50% duty cycle. To the 50% duty cycle on the settling thrusters. Then a nice stable coast phase. Everything looks good. And in approximately 100 seconds, we will be nulling out our roll rate, ending our thermal control roll.
This is Atlas Launch Control, and we are 20 minutes into our mission elapsed time at this point, with everything continuing to go smooth with no problems. Spacecraft separation is scheduled to come up in about 9.5 minutes. At this time, we are going to play a short tape that provides a good overview of the TDRS program and what this next generation of TDRS satellites will be capable of providing.
What kind of courage does it take to step into the great void? Those who are willing to take the risk of a lifetime rely on communication.
Denver, Houston, at this range, you're safe, so you have a go to cross under.
Okay.
The lifeline of mankind in space.
That's far enough to port. I need to go forward in the bay. Turn forward.
For the astronauts of the International Space Station and the Space Shuttle. For scientists analyzing celestial phenomena and global environmental data from more than a dozen research spacecraft. And for astronomers retrieving Hubble telescope images revealing the origins of ancient galaxies. The communication connection is TDRS, the tracking and data relay satellites. In 1995, Hughes was selected by NASA Goddard to supply 3 next-generation spacecraft compatible with their existing TDRS series and capable of expanding communication requirements for the future. The new HI and J TDRS spacecraft are based on the successful Hughes 601 bus design and include advanced Hughes 702 electronics. These spacecraft represent years of development and test, incorporating flight-proven hardware from past programs, as well as several new features. TDRS HI and J introduce Ka-band capability at up to 800 megabits per second. This new high-frequency service increases data rate capabilities for future missions, such as space station science and multispectral high-resolution Earth observation. The new spacecraft are also equipped with innovative folding antennas that meet NASA's requirements for reflectors with a large surface area, yet low weight. These steerable antennas can simultaneously transmit and receive, supporting dual independent two-way communications.
This is Atlas Launch Control as we continue with our coverage of the Atlas launch and the TDRS spacecraft. I have back with us again Tony Camberiotti of the TDRS project manager. Tony, thanks for taking a few minutes out before spacecraft separation to answer a few questions. Just real briefly, why did NASA procure the TDRS H, I, and J when it already had 6 TDRS spacecraft in orbit?
Okay, the 6 spacecraft that are in orbit have an average age of over 10 years, and they're all working fairly well, but this generation HIJ is certainly the next generation to take the space network into the next decade.
What are some of the new features that are included in this new trio of spacecraft?
Okay, besides having all the features of their current network, the HIJ spacecraft add a Ka-band service that is capable of higher data rates, and also enhances some of the multiple access services that are on the current fleet.
And finally, this is the first TDRS that hasn't been launched on a space shuttle. Why do we switch to an expendable rocket?
Okay, as you may remember, our second TDRS was lost on the Challenger, and after that, in 1986, the NASA policy was to not launch anything on the space shuttle that didn't need astronaut support.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, and of course, we're coming up with spacecraft separation here in about just a few minutes, so we'll let you go back to your console.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chris.
And we're about 30 seconds from MECO 2. However, this will be a minimum residual shutdown, so we will burn all usable propellants in the Centaur to maximize energy delivered to the spacecraft. having MECO 1 any second, or MECO 2 any second now. And we have MECO 2, normal shutdown signature. Signature indicates a LOX depletion as expected. Pumps are spinning down normally. We have 4S engines on. Everything looks good. And both power packs have shut down, normal signatures there. And we see normal settling thruster activity, everything looks good. And we've started our reorientation to separation attitude. Vehicle rates look appropriate for this maneuver. And we've begun spin up. No correction there. We've nulled out our roll rates from our reorientation to SEP attitude. Spin up should be starting in approximately 40 seconds.
This is Atlas Launch Control. We're about 28 minutes into our mission elapsed time sequence. The Atlas II rocket with NASA's TDRS spacecraft aboard was successfully launched from the Cape Canaveral Air Force Station today at 8:56 a.m. Eastern Time, and all systems from the launch through now have occurred on time and without incident. The launch team has remained here in the Mission Director Center, monitoring their consoles. And everyone is perfectly happy with the telemetry that's coming to them as we stand by for word of spacecraft separation from the Centaur stage. Spacecraft separation is scheduled to occur in about a minute and a half, and the spacecraft is now over the Atlantic Ocean west of Africa and being tracked by NASA telemetry.
Approximately 70 seconds from spacecraft separation. Continuing to spin up the vehicle as expected. About 40 seconds to spacecraft separation. And we're now about 20 seconds of spacecraft separation. Continuing to spin Centaur spacecraft combination up. And we have spacecraft separation. TDRS H has separated from the Centaur. Spin down as expected.
And we have confirmation of spacecraft separation. NASA's TDRS spacecraft has successfully separated from the launch vehicle. This new generation of communication satellites will provide on-orbit service for 11 years or longer, giving us communications and data relay services for users around the world.
13,936 nautical miles. We achieved it at 15,034 nautical miles, right on above normal, which is what we like to see. Our perigee height is right on the money, down to the first decimal point, and inclination is even a little bit lower than our nominal, indicating that much more energy delivered to the spacecraft. With the successful separation of the payload in a very good orbit, this concludes the commentary for the flight of AC-139.
And as we just heard from our real-time commentary from the telemetry lab, the spacecraft has separated successfully. Everything has gone extremely well for the launch of the TDRS spacecraft and the Atlas launch vehicle. The launch of the Atlas vehicle was successful, and the data coming into the telemetry lab again indicates that there are no problems with the spacecraft following its ascent through spacecraft separation. The next event scheduled to occur is spacecraft acquisition, which is due to occur within the next 20 minutes. And then about 2 hours later, the TDRS antenna are scheduled to be unfurled. Confirmation of these events will be made through a written press release from the Kennedy Space Center press site. This concludes commentary for the launch of Atlas 139 and the TDRS spacecraft from the Mission Director Center. This is Atlas Launch Control.